We created these little one-topic webinars basically to try to focus in on one part of the program. And even in our advanced topic or at advanced training classes, we tend to just cover a few things. So I wanted to go into as much detail on the fixture takeoff as possible here today, just like we did last week with the feeders. These are two of the most critical parts of the takeoff, especially as far as time consuming. You know, when you have to set up a unique fixture schedule for every job, and with feeders, you know, they can be a real important impact in the job as far as cost and labor and that kind of thing. So we're going to go into fixtures today. We're going to start with an overview, just a quick little overview of the fixture takeoff screen, and then we're going to go into all these other topics, give you some little examples of shortcuts and other advanced features and things you may not know about in the fixture module. We'll keep it pretty short. So, but again, like Erica said, if you have a question, just hit that raised hand or type it into the chat option in the, or questions, actually, there's a little questions option on the taskbar for the GoToWebinar program. So I'm going to start a new job, just so it's clean. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK here. So the first thing I'm going to do is just walk through a fixture setup, just so you kind of know what is involved, and then we're going to get into some of the features and shortcuts. So under fixtures and devices takeoff, under light fixtures. So one of the things about the fixture module is that every fixture requires a unique designation on this first field here. It needs a letter, number, combination of a letter and number, and typically that comes from the fixture schedule on your drawings. So we'll just start with A1. Now this first example here, excuse me, I'm going to walk down the screen just one line at a time. I'm going to build a fixture from scratch. This is probably the slowest way to do it, but it lets me just briefly talk about some of the things you need to consider on each of these choices. So the description, that's pretty obvious. This little button brings up a menu. So let's say it's an LED. Let's say it's under lay-in and recessed because we're looking for a 2x4. And then on the manufacturing catalog number, I don't normally fill this in. There might be situations where you need to. For the manufacturer, let's say it's Lithonia. Instead of scrolling down there, I'm going to hit the letter L on the keyboard, and I'm going to double click on Lithonia. So I'm just going to make up a catalog number. Again, this would come from the fixture schedule. With LED fixtures, we can typically skip the lamps, but you could put, you know, all the typical lamps into a fixture. And then I'm going to go down here to this tab that says accessories per fixture. So let's say I want to include a fixture whip. We go to fixture whips. You've got some standard choices here with MC cable. You even have the pre-made kind or the snap-in kind that are typically delivered attached to the fixture. I'm just going to go to a 6-foot of 12-2. That's one per fixture. And then we're also going to put in some T-bar clips. You can put any type of support materials you want, seismic wires, T-bar clips. We'll put in 4 here. Now these are all per fixture. There's another tab here that I think you're going to find important for a couple of reasons. Let's say I just want to throw in 30 J boxes. You hit select items, go to J boxes, 4 square box and a blank cover, and I'm going to put in 30. So in the tab here for additional accessories total, it's just the quantity you put in. It's not multiplied by the number of fixtures. Everything else, when I come down here to the quantity and put in 60, that gets multiplied by the accessories per fixture. So I'm going to hit takeoff. So you'll see in the audit trail that the fixture doesn't have a price. It'll prompt you at the end to put a quote in. That quote can be, typically it'll be a lump sum quote, but you could put them in per fixture. Okay, so let's start with a couple of shortcuts. One is the copy feature. Let's say I've got another fixture. We're going to designate A1-EM. So instead of building the fixture from scratch, I'm going to use the copy feature. You hit the little down arrow here, click on A1, it makes a copy of it. Now, I like to use this notes tab for a couple of things. I'm going to type in emergency. So one of the things I'll show you in a few minutes is there's a report you can generate that goes to your suppliers with all your counts. It'll have manufacturing catalog number if you put it in. Normally it's just easier to send the supplier a copy of the fixture schedule, but you might have a small job or maybe it's a change order and you want to specify on the report you send to the customer the catalog and manufacturer information. So you can type it in. Again, normally you want to skip that. Now, under additional accessories total, you notice it didn't copy the JBox. Another option with accessories, let's say I want one JBox for every 2 fixtures. You would hit select items, go to JBoxes, 4 square box and a blank cover, and I would put a half a box. That way I'll get 1 for every 2 fixture. So I'll close that window. I'm going to put in 12 of those fixtures and hit takeoff. Now that copy feature, that shortcut, if you haven't used it before, that's something you should be able to use on almost every job I've ever seen. Even small jobs where there's just 4 or 5 different fixtures. Typically, at least a couple of them will be similar to ones you've already built at the beginning of Fixture Takeoff. Now let's just do that shortcut one more time. Let's say I've got a B1. It's another 2x4 lay-in, so I'm going to copy A1. Just hit the little drop-down arrow here. And I'm going to put in different catalog number. And I'm going to leave everything else the same, except for I'm going to add, I'll leave let's put some JBoxes in again. But this time I'll put in 0.25, so every 4 fixtures gets a JBox. So the quantity here, we're going to put in 50 and hit takeoff. Now the other shortcut, I think this is maybe even more important or more useful, at least in a lot of situations, is to utilize the assemblies that are already in the fixture part of the takeoff. You do that by going to Saved Assemblies. We're going to come down here to a wall bracket or wall, let's do a 4-foot surface LED. Now again, normally I don't put the manufacturing catalog number in. It automatically pulls in as an accessory a box with a plaster ring. So we're going to put in 15 of these and hit F2 takeoff. So let's do that little shortcut one more time. X1 is going to be an exit light. Again, if it's a common fixture, just flip over here to Saved Assemblies. We're going to do an exit fixture for a T-bar ceiling. And I'm going to add a fixture whip again. But this time, let's say that I want to make that fixture whip a permanent accessory. So that every time I pull up that particular assembly, when I go up here to Saved Assemblies up at the top, I have 2 options. I can either update the one that I've currently got on the screen, that's update screen, or save screen would be to add a new one. So you can really tweak and customize this list to the kind of jobs that you're typically doing the most. You can even rearrange the order here. You can drag and drop things to different locations. You can create folders if you need to. I'm just going to hit update screen for now, and it'll make you confirm it. So from now on, that particular assembly will include a whip. And we're going to put in 10 of those. Those are by far the two most important shortcuts. I cover those in every training session I do, even the introductory ones. We talk about the copy feature, we talk about the saved assemblies. Okay, so let's go a little bit further here. Let's say I want to create a new fixture assembly on the fly because I've got an oddball fixture. Maybe it's a big chandelier, maybe it's some kind of a 20-foot LED linear fixture that's not in the database. We're going to call this C2. So anytime you've got that situation and you've looked under all the different folders here, you've looked under the saved assemblies, you're not really finding what you need, just type it into the description here. Let's go back to a chandelier. I think I'm spelling it right, don't quote me on that. Now, on the manufacturer, sometimes what I want to do here is indicate that it's owner furnished. That way, when I send the report to my suppliers, even though the counts will be there, it'll be clear that it's an owner furnished fixture. I could put lamps in just like I would any fixture. You can actually type into the lamps field too if you need to add a temporary one on the fly. But we're going to go to LED lamps. I'm going to go to 25 watt. Let's say that there's 8 of those lamps. Now on accessories per fixture, Let's go to select items. I'm going to put an outlet box in. I'm going to do a 4-square box with the plastering. Actually, let's go down here to the ceiling fan box. Give you a little bit more of a heavy duty box with a bracket. So that's 1 per fixture. So the key to this little example is the fact that I typed it into the description here. Well, that was my typo there. That looks better. So I'm going to say there's 3 of these fixtures. I'm going to hit F2 takeoff. Because I created my own fixture on the fly, it wants me to put the labor in. So I'll just put in 4 hours. So again, use that anytime you come across an oddball fixture that's not in the program, or maybe it's, you know, it's a unique one. Maybe you found something that looks good and you don't want to use that. You can just type it in your own description and move on from there. Okay. So we already talked about the difference between accessories per fixture and the additional accessories total. Here's the other situation you might want to use that option. Now I've already got a fixture A1. I want to take off 10 more, but let's say they're in a high ceiling. I can either type in A1 on this line, or I can just hit the drop down arrow. Got the same accessories. Now let's say because they're in a high ceiling, I want to add a ½ hour per fixture. The easy way to do this is to go to this little tab that says additional accessories total. And then you're going to see under select items, there's some categories with fixture adders and fixture deducts. So you could use it in the opposite scenario. Maybe you've got a room with 75 fixtures and you want to take a little bit of labor off of each one. You could do the deducts. But we're going to add 10. We're going to add a ½ hour here. And you've got these standard options, anywhere from 1/10 of an hour to 2 hours. Or you can use the open one and just make up your number on the fly. I'm going to go to ½ hour. And then you put the same quantity here. So I'm adding 10 fixtures, and these 10 are going to have additional ½ hour each. So I'm putting the 10 here. Could have done this in the original entry. I could have put in 60 fixtures and then put in 10 in the high ceiling. You could either do it separately like this, or you can do it on the same original entry. It just kind of depends how it comes up on the takeoff. So that came up with a discussion with a customer. We were troubleshooting on what do I do about, you know, having the same fixture A1 in a different location that's more difficult or less difficult. One of the workarounds is to create another fixture, just call it A1-1 or something, but that's confusing when you print out the reports to send to your supplier, because it's still fixture A1 and the supplier doesn't care whether it's in a high ceiling or not. So I'm going to go ahead and hit takeoff. Now here, you don't want to change the designation. If you'd made a mistake and it was a new fixture, you could change it here, but we're just going to hit OK. Now doing it that way works fine. What you don't want to do is this. Now, first of all, I can change the quantity here. You just hit edit to source. Let's say that there's actually 12 of those. That would still leave, but 10 of them are in the high ceilings. We're going to hit save changes. What you don't want to do is go up here and change it to another designation, because what that will do is it'll change this A1 fixture throughout the job. Same thing happens in feeders, by the way. If you have a feeder P1 and you want to do another entry, you can't change the designation. You've either got to create a new designation or leave it as is. So I'm not going to do that for now. I'll just leave it like it is. Actually, let's go back to the original entry. Let's say I want to change this from 60 to 70. You can hit edit to source, change it to 70, and hit save changes. So now I've got a total of 80. I've got 70 in a standard ceiling, and down here at the bottom, I've got another 10 with this ½ hour labor added for each of those fixtures. Okay. Another option with fixtures, and this only applies to the Pro version. Let's just create a fixture F1. Again, I'm going to start with saved assemblies. Let's say it's going to be a 2x2 lay-in. Just double click. I'm going to skip the manufacturing catalog number. But another option with fixtures, you know, when you go to the fixture whip menu, it's got only these choices. Maybe you want one that's 25 feet. Maybe you want one with a different type of cable. You can close here, go to conduit wire and cable, and you've got all the options under the saved assemblies here. So if I go to cable, I can scroll down here to the 12-2 luminary cable. I'll put 20 feet per fixture. And we'll just leave the seismic wire there, and we'll put in 40 of those. So this is a handy little tab. You can put conduit with the fixtures, you can put cable, and you're not limited to the few that are on the fixture whip menu. You've got all these choices, I don't know, 20 or 30, 40 different types of cable, probably more types of conduit, and you can hit F2 takeoff here. Now let's do F2. I'm going to copy F1. Now this is the feature that I was mentioning a second ago, is only on the Pro version. These two little fields here for factoring labor, they actually factor everything on the screen. So in this case, I've got a fixture, I've got some conduit wire and cable, I've got the luminary cable. So let's say I put in 12 fixtures here. Everything gets factored here. If you only want it to factor the fixture, you do it under the additional accessories, which I just showed you a minute ago. So I'm going to put 20% extra labor on the fixture and all the parts that go with it, and hit takeoff. When you use that factoring feature, again, that's just in the Pro version, you'll see the little asterisk down here next to the item, and that tells you what was added in connection to be a deduct to, was added to the labor for those 5 items that were part of that entry. I already mentioned the notes feature. Let me show you one thing you might want to use on the notes feature. I'm going to go back to A1. Now, when I make this change here, it's going to change all the A1s. I'm going to put in no substitutions here. So when I print this out and send it to my suppliers, that's going to ask me if I want to change all of the A1s. I'm going to say yes. Oh, it just does it. That's right. Okay. So now I've got this note, no substitutions, that will appear on the report I send off to the suppliers. Okay, let me just touch on that report real quick. It's over to the right here. I can't tell you how many times I've trained people, even when they're pretty experienced, they don't know about this fixture report. The same thing is available in switchgear, and it gives you a nice little report to send off to your suppliers. I don't know how many times I've run into people that print out, or that take the printout of the fixture schedule from the drawings, they write in the quantities, and they either fax it or scan it and send it over to the supplier. You've got to put the quantities in anyway to do your estimate. So this is a nice little report to send off. It's got all your quantities over here to the right. It's got your notes. I had a note on this one, had a note on this one. I've got owner furnished on this one. You have your company name, you have the job name, and you can either print a hard copy or you can save it as a PDF file and then send it along with the actual fixture schedule to your supplier. No reason to write anything down here. If you're doing it electronically with PlanSwift or on-screen takeoff, that's even better. Don't even have to mark the drawings, you do it electronically. Okay, so here's an example, a couple other little features here. Let's talk about, there's saved assemblies down here. I don't use these as often, but I think it's a nice feature. Let's create an F3. I'm going to use a saved assembly for a, let's do a recessed LED downlight. So this list here, the saved assemblies, is just for accessories. So let's say I want to use a 15 feet of MC cable with a J-box. That pulls up those accessories. Again, you can add to that list just by saving when you're on this screen. So it's a little bit of an assembly within an assembly. It can be as many items as you want here. I'll put in 10 of those. Okay, so My last example here is going to be a site pole mounted fixture. Now, I'm not going to take the shortcuts here. I'm going to go the long route and go to description. It's going to be under outdoor and landscape. So typically with the description of the fixture, I start with the fixture head. So we'll make it a little bit old school. We'll go to HID. Here's a double head pole top fixture. Again, we're going to skip the manufacturing catalog number, but under lamps, we will go to metal halide. We'll go to 150 watt, and that'll be 2. Now I've got 3 more things I need to include with the fixture. Now I've got the fixture head and the lamps. Let's start with a pole. So that's a great thing to put under accessories per fixture. We can go to steel poles. We'll do 20 foot, 1 per fixture, and hit OK. Now I want to add 2 more things. I want to add in some wire to go up that pole. So I'm going to close here. I could also do all items, but I'm just going to hit miscellaneous items here. I'm going to go to wire, cable, and pole line. THHN copper stranded at the top. And we're going to do 30 feet of number 10. Now, the other thing that comes up with pole fixtures is the pole base. Now, we do have some assemblies built into the database for the concrete pole bases, but I don't really think, I don't like using them because there's some open items there, so you end up having to price out things manually. More importantly, the pole base is something at this point I may not even know who's going to do it. I may end up doing it in-house. I may end up subbing it out, may end up excluding it. So here's the best way to handle that kind of scenario. It's with a temporary item here. You've got temp miscellaneous. We just hit add, hit OK. And we'll type in concrete pole base. Oops. Now I'm going to leave the price open. Again, I may plug something in. I may leave it at 0 and exclude it. Same thing with labor. If I'm going to sub it out, I'm going to put in just a price for to pay somebody to do it. If I'm going to do it in-house, I'll probably want to put in some material cost and some labor hours. But by leaving it open, it'll tell the program to flag it, and it will be 1 per fixture, and you're good to go. So let's say there's 10 of those. Hit F2 takeoff. And of course, you always got that copy feature. If I've got an S2, and let's say that's a single head fixture, I'm going to copy S1. I'm going to come up here to description, outdoor and landscape, HID, and then there's a single head pole top fixture. Then all we need to do is change the number of lamps. Everything else can stay the same. Still got the pole, still got the wire, still got the concrete pole base, and I'll put in 5 of those. So let's look at that report one more time over here to the right. I've got a quite nice little fixture schedule built up here. But just put in the information you need. You know, don't normally bother with the manufacturing catalog number. I might want to indicate things that are owner furnished so they don't have questions about them, but the fixture schedule will indicate the same thing. It's really the designation and the quantities that the supplier wants. I think that's about it for what I have for fixtures. Haven't seen anybody pop up any hands. This would be a good point to ask questions. Got about 25 people in the webinar here today. Oh, I do see a question. Good. Thank you. Kirk Dutry, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing your name right. I'm going to activate your audio.
I was just wondering, how do you put in your total fixture package when you get a quote?
Oh, good question. Now, there's 2 places to do it. The place I would normally do it is under reports. Now, I'm going to skip the job extension because, well, let's do the job extension because I've got some open items. I'm going to hit extension spreadsheet. I've got That pole base, I'm going to sub that out for $750. And that includes labor, so I'll leave that at 0. So there's 2 places to put your quote in. The place I typically do it is under job totals. And you come up here, it's warning us, reminding us to put a fixture quote in. So we just go to quotes. And then you can either fill them in individually, but you know, as most people know, you don't get itemized pricing on fixtures unless it's some kind of a unique scenario, but you could use this top part of the screen like a spreadsheet. More typically, you're going to come down here and just plug it in right here. And if you want to put the name of the supplier in, right above it, you can hit this little button that says supplier 1. And then when you hit this button here, it'll give you a list. Let's say that's going to be Rexel. And you could add to the list here, of course. And then you just hit OK. Now, the other place to put it in, if you kind of want to bypass the job total screen, is to come down here on the left, quoted material. And then you've got the different quotes right there. Once you've put the prices in, you can run a report. And it'll look pretty much like the report we did earlier. I did not select the option to show the manufacturing catalog number if I don't need that, but you can. Does that answer your question, Kirk?
Yep.
I'm glad you asked that. Thank you. I'm going to scroll through the list one more time here, see if we've got any other questions. Erica, did anybody type in any questions?
Unmuted.
Oh, there's another hand.
I didn't see any typed questions, Brian.
Okay. Ron, I just activated your audio.
How you doing? Question: if you add in your fixture quote, and then you go and adjust your materials, like what's the word I'm looking for? Your when you go to your job totals,
Yep.
if you go to add your factors in, will that also factor up your quotes also, or just your EBM bid?
I'm not sure. Are you talking about which factors? The one on the takeoff screen or the one from the job totals?
Like profit and overhead.
Oh, yeah. So let's say you add another, let's just do that. Let's go add another 10 fixtures. So we'll do 10 more of the A1s. Actually, let's go back. Sorry, let's take it from the step you were saying. Let's say I have overhead and profit in. I've got 10% overhead and 10% profit. And now I go back and add another fixture. So right now we're at 64,454.
But did that add to the quote?
Yes and no. But I haven't added the fixture. I haven't added any more fixtures yet. So let's do that first. So I'm going to add 10 more of these. So now when I go to reports and go to job totals, I've got to be careful because if the quote needs to be adjusted, you have to come down here and get a revised quote from your supplier.
Right, I understand that, but like I guess let's see if I can get a better question for you. Will the profit and overhead directly be proportionate with any numbers that's in the quotes? Like, will it actually take that quote and add to the quote, or will it just to do the non-quoted and like the labor and stuff?
It will add it to everything unless you tell it otherwise. So the default on overhead is to apply 10% to the entire job.
Okay.
A lot of the time people use this option here at the top though, because maybe they don't want to put 10% on the quoted material. Or maybe they only want to put 5%. And they'll
Gotcha.
So I think that wraps it up. I'm going to flip back to the outline here for a minute, Erica. Oops. I'm going to go ahead and sign off here. I'm going to have Erica take a couple minutes to tell you about the other online training options we have now that we're not doing on-site or classroom training, physical classroom training. We have we've always been able to do online training one-to-one, but one of the new concepts we have now is classroom training. So I have a setup with a virtual classroom, so I can see 5, 10 different screens at the same time. So it's just like you're sitting in a classroom. Your audio is activated so that you can talk to the other students, you can ask a question to the instructor at each point, and I can see exactly what screen you're on. So if you get lost or you start getting off track for whatever reason, I've got a screen here that tells me where you are, and I can get you back on track. So I'm going to go ahead and sign off here. I appreciate everybody coming to the webinar here today. Like Erica said, we do record these. It may not be posted for a few more days, but we will send an email to everybody who was registered, which obviously includes the people who are in the webinar here today, and then you'll be able to download it and rerun any parts of it you like. So thanks again for attending the webinar, and here's Erica to sign us off.
Thank you, Brian, for that presentation. If anyone should have any follow-up questions from today's webinar, you can give us a call or an email. Our phone number's down at the bottom of your screen there, 1-800-258-7752 or 1-800-605-2167. If you need our sales department, extension 1, our renewals or your accounts manager, extension 2. That's also if you have any questions on any of the online training new online training group classroom sessions or the one-on-one hands-on online training sessions with Brian, or if you'd like to schedule any additional training sessions with Brian, you can go ahead and dial our numbers there at the bottom of your screen, extension 2, and speak with either myself or Carrie Benoit here at our office. She's the other accounts manager here. If you have any tech support questions, you can also email our technical support team at support@visioninfosoft.com. And as always, to learn about our various other products and services, you can also visit our website at www.visioninfosoft.com. And you can also keep up to date on what is happening here at Vision. We have our various social networking sites. We're available on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and also YouTube. If you'd like to check out any of our video content, we host a few training webinars there as well. If you can go to youtube.com/VisionInfosoft, that'll get you some of our estimating videos and training videos, that kind of thing. You can visit all of that recorded material there as well. Okay, I would like to go ahead and thank everyone again for joining us today. This concludes the webinar. Like I said, this will be recorded. This has been recorded today, and we will be sending out a link shortly this week to this webinar if anybody would like to review it for future reference. Okay, thank you so much again for joining us today. This concludes the webinar. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Goodbye.